Alhamdulillah, salatu salam ala Rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, today we're going to be starting a new series on the Aqidah, or the belief of a Muslim. And this is very important to learn because, generally speaking, most of us, they were born into a Muslim family. And being born into a Muslim family, we were basically taught or told that you are a Muslim, and this is what your belief is supposed to be. You believe in one Allah, you believe in the hereafter, you believe in the angels, and so on. So that basic understanding of Aqidah has been instilled into us, and this is what we've understood from childhood. However, there are deeper things that we must know about Aqidah that we are not familiar with. Sometimes, because of the traditions that are being practiced around us, many people, they fall into even committing shirk without even knowing it. Okay, there are so many traditions, especially in the Indian subcontinent, that take place that are not part of the religion. They are not part of the deen, but they have been taken from Hindu teachings or Sikh teachings, and they have become part of the culture of Islam, and people practice them unknowingly, thinking them to be good practices, but in fact the reality is that they are actually handed down from Hindu traditions and non-Muslim traditions. For example, the issue of a person when he passes away, there is something which is called, what people do, traditions that they have after 7 days, and then after 40 days, and then every year. There is nothing in Islam that talks about this issue that you must do things after 7 days or 40 days or after 1 year. And people, they kind of mix and match the Islamic teaching with what they've picked up from, this is basically a Hindu tradition. So there are so many things like that. So we need to be able to differentiate between right and wrong, between shirk and tawheed, and to make sure that we're not doing something wrong. Our belief is correct, and there is nothing that we do that is contrary to Islamic teaching without us knowing it. One of the things that people used to object to when the Anbiya alayhimu salatu wasalam came to them was that our forefathers have been doing this for generations. Meaning, when the Anbiya alayhimu salatu wasalam used to teach people and tell them what is right and what is wrong, one of the biggest objections that they got from the people that they were trying to invite was that, are you telling us to stop what our forefathers have been doing for centuries? So this is not a dalil, this is not a proof. This is just an objection that many people put to knowledgeable people when they try to teach correct knowledge. So just because we've been doing it for centuries, or just because our village or our city or our country, we've been doing it for centuries, that is not a dalil that what is being done is correct. The only thing that we can use for proof is what is derived from the Quran and the Sunnah. And that is what makes something correct or incorrect. So why is Aqidah so important? We find that in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet was sent at a time when humanity was at its lowest. In terms of their beliefs and the things that they used to do, humanity was doing things which were very far removed from what they were supposed to be doing. They were in such ignorance that people didn't even want to rule over them. So much so that people used to be feuding for centuries over something as trivial as, why did your camel drink from the same watering hole as my camel? Why did your camel graze onto my land? So people used to feud for decades and centuries, and they used to forget what the actual feud was about. But when Islam came, the Prophet ﷺ had this very unenviable task of trying to lead people away from that ignorance. And obviously the biggest ignorance was the ignorance of shirk that was being committed in the house whose basis and foundation was Tawheed. Inna awwala baytin wudi'a lin-nas lalladhi bi Bakkata mubarakan wa hudan lil-alamin fihi ayatun bayyinatun maqamu Ibrahim. This was the first house that was built, the Kaaba, that was built on the basis of Tawheed, on the basis of the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in that very house, shirk was being practiced and idols had been erected, 360 idols, which ultimately the Prophet ﷺ, after the conquest of Mecca, broke every single one of them. جاء الحق وزهق الباطل, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declared, and the Prophet ﷺ declared as he was breaking the idols. But to take people away from that shirk that they were indulging in, it took a lot of effort. So the beginning years of the Prophet ﷺ's prophethood, for 13 years, continuously, the Prophet ﷺ was talking about Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instilling into them the Iman and taking away from them all the different forms of shirk that the people had been committing and taking away this ignorance. So much so that certain things that the people used to do, the Prophet ﷺ forbade them, even though they, in and of themselves, they were halal. For example, there's a hadith which prohibits the usage of certain utensils, particularly those utensils that were made from hollowed out gourds, what we call loki or kaddu. If you basically hollow it out, the outer shell becomes hard and it becomes like a utensil. And what people used to do was they used to put the grape juice inside these utensils to ferment the grape juice and to turn it into wine. So this winemaking was such a part of their culture that initially the Prophet ﷺ forbade even using those utensils. Why? Because they might have flashbacks and they might go back to practicing the fermentation of the wine in those utensils. So initially the Prophet ﷺ forbade the usage of anything that could take them back to their old ways. Those old ways were instilled into them so much. Then after the people's Iman became strong and they were ready to accept the message of Islam and the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ then relaxed the rules for those particular things. So the main thing was instilling into them the strength of conviction and their Aqidah and the correct belief. We all know that the prohibition of alcohol, it took place over 3 stages. In the first stage, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes in Surah Al-Baqarah, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ. They are asking you about khamr and maisir. They are asking you about wine and gambling. قُلْ فِيهِمَا إِثْمٌ كَبِيرٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala basically told the people that there are benefits and harms in both things. Okay, even today, if you read medical reports, the doctors say that if you drink a glass of wine after dinner, it lowers your cholesterol levels, it's high in antioxidants and so on. So even today, the doctors will say that there are some benefits in the consumption of wine. But the disclaimer that they have usually at the end of their statement is that if you have not started drinking, then don't drink. It is better for you not to drink. So Islamically, this is what Islam said at the beginning. There is benefit, but the harm outweighs the benefit. The second stage of prohibition of alcohol was when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the people not to drink alcohol while coming for salat. After one of the Sahaba, he was intoxicated, he led the prayer and he read certain verses of the Quran and he changed the meaning in that recitation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la taqrabu salata wa antum sukara. This was the second stage. Finally, the last stage, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu innamal khamru wal maisiru wal ansab wal azlamu rijsum min amali shaytan fajtanibuhu la'allakum tuflihun. In this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade and made haram 4 things, and one of them was alcohol, and He told the people to avoid them. It is mentioned that once Anas bin Malik radiallahu ta'ala who was in this house of Talha ibn Ubaidullah, and he was serving wine to the people sitting around. And suddenly there was a commotion outside. Somebody was making an announcement outside. So Talha said to Anas, go check what's going on outside. What's this noise that we're hearing? So Anas radiallahu ta'ala went out, and he found out, and he came back after a while, that the announcement has been made that alcohol has now been prohibited. It is now haram to consume alcohol. So if we would be in that situation, we would say, okay, we are halfway through this dinner, at least let's finish off these glasses, and then we'll see about the prohibition later on. Okay, so Talha ibn Ubaidullah, he said, immediately take this wine and pour it outside in the street. And this was the habit of everyone that heard the announcement. They were taking out wine which was decades old, fermented for years, and they were pouring it out into the streets, saying, Intahayna, Intahayna. We've stopped, we've stopped. This was the attitude that came after the Iman and conviction was built of the Sahaba, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajma'in. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she says, إنما نزل أول ما نزل سورة من المفصل فيها ذكر الجنة والنار. She said that the beginning surahs, if you look at Juz Amma and the 29th Juz, most of these surahs are Makki surahs. And most Makki surahs, they will talk about Iman, Tawheed, Jannah, Jahannam, and they will build inside a human. If a person reads them and he understands them, he will get that Iman built inside him. So she says that the first surahs that were revealed, they were mentioning Jannah and Nar, Jannah and the hellfire, paradise and the hellfire. حتى إذا ثاب الناس إلى الإسلام نزل الحلال والحرام. When people started coming close to Islam or becoming entrenched in Islam, then halal and haram came down. Then the rulings came down. وَلَوْ نَزَلَ أَوَّلُ شَيْءٍ لَا تَشْرَبُ الْخَمْرِ. If the first thing was revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that do not consume alcohol, لَقَالُوا وَاللَّهِ لَا نَدَعُ الْخَمْرَ أَبَدًا. If it was the first thing that was revealed, then people would have said, I swear by Allah, or we swear by Allah, we will never leave wine ever. Wallahi, they would swear by Allah that we will never leave the wine ever. وَلَوْ نَزَلْ لَا تَزْنُوا. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had revealed, do not commit zina, لَقَالُوا لَا نَدَعُ الزِّنَا أَبَدًا. They would say that we are never going to leave zina ever, ever. So basically, if we look at the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed verses and built up the character of the people and built up the internal conviction and the iman of the people, it became easy for them to practice Islam as the commandments came down. And that is why this Aqidah and inner belief is so important. And I was mentioning the other day at a fundraiser for a school that the building of one's character is the most important thing. The character building, especially of our children, inner character, strength of conviction, inner belief is so important, especially in this day and age, where what's going on is the threat of atheism, the threat of agnosticism, the threat of different religions vying for the attention of our kids, and the information which is readily available online, which kids read, and not having the correct guidance, they slip up and they become further and further away from Islam. So these challenges can be faced by the character building of our children. We've been raised in environments in which our conviction was strong, and we were strengthened, our iman was strengthened, and it's difficult for us to leave something that we so strongly believe in. But when the character is weak and the strength of the iman is weak, then it's very easy for our kids to slip up. And that's why we hear this hadith all the time, right? That when the son of Adam dies, انقطع عمله إلا من ثلاث. These deeds, they stop except from three sources. من صدقة جارية, from صدقة جارية, or علم ينتفع به, knowledge which is benefited from, or ولد صالح يدعو له, or a pious child that prays for him. But if we pay attention to all of these three things, if the people that we leave behind, they do not have the strength of Iman, and they are not practicing what we taught them, then Sadaqah Jariyah is useless. We build a masjid, but nobody is practicing in that masjid, then there is no Sadaqah Jariyah. There is no benefit from it. We're not getting a benefit. We built a masjid, but we didn't build the character of the people to inhabit the masjid and go to the masjid. We taught knowledge, and that knowledge is only going to be beneficial as long as people practice it and it is spread and taught to other people. If a person gains that knowledge and it's just information that he has, then it's not going to benefit me when I'm in the grave. It's only going to benefit me when the people that I've taught, they have that character to practice that knowledge. And the third thing that's mentioned there, a pious child that prays for you. Again, if we didn't instill into our children the importance of the rights of the parents, and part of the rights of the parents is praying for them after they leave, then that character is not there, that conviction is not there, so who's going to pray for us? So this hadith completely becomes nullified because of the fact that we have not built into our children that character, that conviction, that iman, that faith that is supposed to make them practice what is mentioned in that hadith. So this is why the learning of Aqidah is so important, to make sure that our conviction is such that we do not slip up. The first few weeks, basically what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be dealing with certain terminology of the lessons that we're going to be learning. What is Iman? What is Islam? Is there any difference between the two? For example, we've learned Iman, we've learned about Islam, but are they mutually exclusive, or are they understood to be something together? So inshallah we're going to be learning about that. What does Aqidah actually mean? What does usul mean? What does the asl or foundation mean? What does deen mean? What is the word deen? So all of these things, the first couple of weeks, we're going to be discussing terminologies, and then inshallah we're going to get into the depth of what the belief of a Muslim is supposed to be. Hopefully inshallah these are going to be interesting lessons for you. We'll stop here right now. Inshallah we'll continue with this next week. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us tawfiq to understand and practice what has been said and heard.